You don't need a period unless you're trying to get pregnant. It's normal to lose your period as a young, active woman. No period? Here's a pill to kickstart your cycle. These are all the things that I heard over and over again when I was trying to get my period back. And I believed it. Because why would I question professionals? But the reality is, it's not normal to lose your period. You absolutely need it regardless if kids are on the cards or not. And no, you cannot use the pill to kickstart your cycle. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Martina Good, a hormones and women's health coach. At 19, I lost my period and later was diagnosed with hypothalamic amenorrhea, a condition where you lose your period due to undereating, overtraining, or stress. Or in my case, a combination of the three of them. I spent 5 years trying to get my period back. That's 5 years of frustration, confusion, and spinning my wheels. Today, I want to share exactly what I did to get my period back and something that I wish I had at the beginning of my recovery journey, because I believe if I had this information from the start, it wouldn't have taken me years. Let me quickly take you back to how it all started, because I believe this is something you might resonate with. At 17, in college, I got really into health and fitness. And I say this in quotation marks because what I believed was healthy back then was far from it. I was exercising 6 to 7 times per week, sometimes twice a day, doing intense cardio, lifting weights, and doing all the classes. I was also eating clean, cutting out all the processed foods, tracking all my calories, eating on average 12 to 1300 calories, sometimes even below 1000. And the thing is that I was getting so much praise for being disciplined and motivated, which just fed me to continue doing more and more and more. And nothing was enough because the goalpost always moves. I share the full spectrum of my story with HA in another video, which I'm going to link below if you want to check it out, because today I want to focus on what made a difference to help me not only regain my cycle, but also regulate it and make it predictable and pretty much symptom-free. First thing that I needed to do was to eat more. And I know this sounds pretty straightforward, and there's probably a lot of this generic advice given by everyone and anyone about period recovery. But the reality was that I misjudged massively by how much I needed to increase my calorie intake. Yes, I added a snack here, increased my portion sizes there, but I was still being controlled by diet culture. This noise that women are not supposed to have big appetites and that we're supposed to constantly diet, look clean, eat less, that I never fully gave myself permission to eat. I found it really hard to let go of control. I was still tracking calories, although yes, I was giving myself permission to eat a little bit more. I was still delaying my breakfast because I believed that I can save more calories for later on in the day. And I was still afraid to eat outside of my designated eating window. In hindsight, I was still restricting, mentally and literally. So I had to increase my food intake massively. And I mean, I was eating around 2,500 up to 3,000 calories a day. And this is very individual, by the way. But for me, that was a lot more food than I was used to eating. From a girl who was eating 1,200 calories, even less than that, for months, maybe years, to then having to eat up to 3,000 calories, I felt that was wrong. But it wasn't only about the calories, it was also about the nutrients. I viewed food as macros, and everything had to be high protein and low carb, low fat, or 0 calories. So I had to change my perspective around food. Stop viewing it as numbers and start viewing it as nutrients that are going to help my body thrive. For example, fats. I always believed that fats are going to make me fat, so I stripped them away from my diet. But by stripping away all the fats, I also stripped myself from food needed to produce hormones. So I started providing my body with healthy fats as well as carbohydrates, because it's not just about protein. We need protein, fats, carbohydrate for the menstrual cycle to be working optimally. And eventually I stopped tracking as well. And I contribute that moving to Bali, because if you've ever been to Bali or lived in Bali, you know that eating out is just part of being there, not only when you're there on holiday, but also it is cheaper, more convenient to eat out in restaurants. And there's so many health conscious restaurants out there where they make food specifically to your order, that it makes a lot more sense to eat out than buy food yourself, especially when you are cooking for one person. So that essentially forced me to stop tracking. And yes, I still could have controlled it and guesstimated, but honestly, I just thought that that the move to Bali was a great opportunity to just give no tracking a go. And I'd say that was the best thing that have ever happened to me, because that's when I truly let go of control. I said, if I can't fully control it, I'm not going to control it at all. And it allowed me to heal my relationship with food, and thereby allow me to eat to satisfaction, to fullness, working off how this food is going to make me feel rather than how it's going to make me look. Was I not scared that I'm going to gain weight? Of course I was. And that was the main thing that kept me spinning around in circles for so long. It was that fear that if I stop tracking my food and I let go of that control, that I'm just gonna let myself go. And I'm gonna lose everything that I worked so hard to gain, aka a lean body, which I thought was like the pinnacle of my worth. And I'd love to say like, oh, it didn't impact my weight at all. It did. I gained almost 40 pounds, but you know what? Like, I needed so badly to gain that healthy weight because I was so undernourished. I was so underfed, and I was not healthy despite what I was telling myself that I was. And at this point, I was so fed up of not having my period, not having any answers, and the fear of infertility, that the uncomfortability of holding on to a little bit more weight and body fat just didn't really matter. Another thing that made a massive difference to help me regain my period was how I viewed exercise and the amount of exercise that I did. I had to cut back on exercise a lot, and this was almost as hard as increasing the amount that I was eating, because my entire identity was wrapped up in the girl who works out. And I loved exercise. It was my stress relief. It was time to be social. I felt so accomplished. It was my work, for fuck's sake. I spent a lot of the time on the gym floor coaching people. My life revolved around exercise. But I had to face the truth. I was overtraining and I was not prioritizing recovery. My body simply couldn't handle this intensity of exercise while trying to restore my hormones. Lucky enough, I didn't have to stop training. I had to cut it back, so I stopped CrossFit, which I was very sad about because I was just getting into it. I actually started prepping for a powerlifting show, which I also had to stop. I had to stop running, but I didn't have to completely let go of the gym, which I'm so thankful for, because I know for some people, they really do have to strip it back to simply just some stretching and walking. I still was in the gym, but I was doing 3 sessions per week, 45 minutes at moderate intensity. There was no training to failure. There was no hitting personal best every single week. And yes, it was hard because I lost that love for pushing myself, but it's something that my body needed at that time. And I kept reminding myself, this isn't forever. When I'm gonna get my hormone health back on track, and then start fueling my training adequately and fueling my body overall adequately, I'm going to be able to get back to the place where I can reintroduce more intense exercise. But this is a period of my time where I really need to prioritize my hormone and female health, and that is a sacrifice that I had to make. And the third big thing that helped me regain my period back was changing the way that I view stress. I always thought of stress as something physical. Financial problems, relationship problems, work deadlines, college deadlines. But stress isn't just physical. It's also mental and emotional. And when I heard about stress management, it gave me an ick. You know, it was just journaling, sitting with your legs crossed, meditating, breathing. And yes, they're all actually fantastic stuff for stress management, although I used to look down at things like journaling, meditation, breath work, and think they're all woo-woo. Now I view them as part of my weekly rituals. But stress management isn't just that. Being able to manage your stress is also being able to let go of control. It's being able to let go of being a perfectionist. It's being able to learn how to put yourself first before you put everyone else in front of you. I used to be a perfectionist. I used to constantly overbook my calendar. I tried to build a business while working full time. I used to say yes to everything, even at the cost of burning out. And the big realization for me was that I'm somebody that's unable to just slow down. And that is what kept me being stuck. Being in that constant fight or flight mode. The body always received that as danger, even though I know I wasn't in physical danger, but the body didn't know the difference between me constantly chasing the dopamine of like a new project or a new personal best in the gym and me running away from a bear. And it was a game changer for me when I learned that stress is a big contributor to why my reproductive systems shut down. So I started to view rest as something that is not just a luxury. That's something that's equally as productive as hitting the gym, as completing a project, as sticking to a diet. And yes, it included things like journaling, gentle breath work, but for me, it started off with saying no when my plate was full, saying that I can't make it when I felt overstimulated. It was having a slow, restorative morning routine rather than 5 a.m. morning starts, shot of espresso and straight to the gym. All of those things contributed to me building up more stress resilience and introducing more calmness, slowness, and grounding into my routine, which really made a difference, and something that I wish I knew even before being told like you just need to eat more and move less. It's like, why has nobody looked at my stress levels and being an overachiever and overloading myself and told me like, hey, if you don't slow down, your body will force you to do so. I tried to get my period back for years and I really wanted it. But the thing was, I wanted it on my own terms, without gaining weight, without letting go of control, with pushing limits every single day. But that was never going to work. I had to fully commit, not just dip my toe in and be like, oh, I'm going back to my old habits. And be patient, because this isn't a click of a finger. It's not about doing something for period recovery and then expecting your period to come back within 2 weeks. So I had to accept that I will need to put in the work and not expect the result immediately. Because the more I stressed about not having my period, the more my body was stopping me from regulating my hormones. So I took it one step at a time, one day at a time. And I focused on what I can do each day in terms of my lifestyle and my diet to support a healthy menstrual cycle. And I remember the first time I got it back, I literally called my mom and my best friend and I cried. I cried with happiness, because losing my period wasn't just about losing the bleed. It was so much more than that. I felt so disconnected from my body. So let me tell you what happened when I got my period back, because this is something that I feel a lot of people don't talk about. It wasn't just about getting my period back. It was about finally being connected with what my body needs. The cravings, the mood changes, the energy dip, all of that made sense once I could track my cycle and my patterns. Now I could support myself as a female with a menstrual cycle, with hormones that change every week, and not try and perform the same way every single day. My energy increased, my bloating stopped, my skin cleared, and overall I just felt happier and less irritated. And the weight that I gained temporary, I was able to lose 20 pounds without any crazy diets or regimented fitness routines. My body returned to a place where it feels most at peace. But the biggest change was mental. I stopped defining my worth by my body size or my workout schedule. I stopped feeling like I needed to earn food or punish myself with exercise. I learned that health isn't about being as lean as possible or exercising as much as possible. It's about balance. It's about listening to your body. It's about having properly functioning hormones and feeling good in yourself and not just looking a certain way. If you have been diagnosed with HA, or if you hadn't had your period in over 6 months, I want you to start by doing an audit of your diet and lifestyle. Are you truly eating to support your body? Are you eating enough nutrients or only focusing on calories? How much are you exercising, and are you supporting that exercise by adequate fuel and adequate recovery? And what are your stress levels like? Are your habits supporting a healthy body or a lean body? If this content resonates with you and you want to be more in tune with your body, then you're in the right place. Go check out some other videos on my page, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.